They say fortune favors the bold, but what they don't tell you is that sometimes it arrives in disguise, sitting across from you in a greasy spoon diner with coffee-stained fingers and secrets worth billions. On the day that would secretly change financial history forever, Warren Buffett wasn't hunting for wealth in Wall Street's polished corridors or corporate boardrooms. No, fate had orchestrated something far more extraordinary. A broken-down Chevy, a 3-hour delay, and an encounter with a mysterious old man who possessed the single most valuable piece of paper Warren would ever hold. A crumpled receipt that would not only make him one of the richest men on earth, but revolutionize how the world understood value itself. This is the story Warren Buffett never tells in interviews, the secret chapter missing from every biography, about how sometimes the greatest fortunes aren't built on complex financial instruments, but on conversations with strangers who see what everyone else has missed. It was a crisp autumn morning in 1962 when Warren Buffett, then a little-known investment manager from Omaha, found himself stranded at a small diner just outside of Chicago. His car had broken down on the way to an important meeting, and the mechanic had promised it would be at least 3 hours before repairs could be completed. At 32 years old, Buffett already had a methodical approach to life. He was frustrated by the delay, but decided to make the best of it. He settled into a corner booth of Eddie's Diner, ordered a cherry Coca-Cola, his favorite drink even then, and pulled out his notebook to review some numbers. "Mind if I join you? Place is packed this morning," said an elderly man with twinkling eyes and a worn briefcase. Before Buffett could respond, the man had already slid into the booth across from him. "Name's Harold Winters," the man said, extending a weathered hand. "Former accountant, current retiree, and full-time observer of human folly." He chuckled at his own introduction. Warren introduced himself politely, hoping to return to his calculations, but Harold wasn't one for silence. "I see you working with numbers there. Investment type, are you?" Harold inquired, sipping his black coffee. Something about Harold's directness sparked Warren's interest. "Yes, I run a small investment partnership in Omaha." Harold nodded knowingly. "Figured as much. You have that look, seeing value where others don't." He paused, studying Buffett more carefully. "You know, I spent 50 years watching businesses rise and fall from my accounting desk. Mind if I share a story that might interest you?" Warren, always hungry for wisdom and with hours to kill, set aside his notebook. "Please do." Harold leaned in, his voice dropping slightly. "Back in 1929, right before the crash, I was working for a manufacturing firm. Brilliant business, terrible management. When things went south, the owner sold off divisions piece by piece, practically giving them away. One division made these specialized industrial brushes. Seemed boring as dirt, but they had contracts with every major railroad in the country." Warren's eyes lit up. He understood immediately the beauty of such a business. Steady contracts with essential industries provided reliable cash flow. "What happened to that division?" Buffett asked. "Sold for pennies on the dollar to a sharp fellow named Frank Mullins. Last I heard, 30 years later, he'd turned that $5,000 purchase into a $25 million empire. Not by changing the business, by understanding what he had. The railroads couldn't run without those brushes, you see." As Harold spoke, Warren's mind was already racing, connecting dots to ideas he'd been developing about business moats and consumer monopolies. "The real fortune," Harold continued, pulling a folded piece of paper from his wallet, "is finding something everyone needs but nobody notices." He slid the paper across the table. It was a faded receipt from a small consumer goods company that had purchased one of Harold's former clients' manufacturing facilities in 1947. "This company," Harold tapped the receipt, "makes something every American household uses daily, but nobody thinks about who makes it. Their profit margins are remarkable because they have no real competition. Too small for the big guys to notice, too specialized for newcomers to challenge." Warren examined the receipt carefully. The company name was Consumer Standard Products, with an address in Minneapolis. "Why are you telling me this?" Warren asked, genuinely curious. Harold's expression grew serious. "Because I'm 85 years old and have terminal cancer. Got maybe 6 months left. No children to pass my knowledge to." He shrugged. "Seems a waste to let good insights die with me." Warren felt a wave of empathy for this stranger. "I'm very sorry to hear that." "Don't be. I've had a good run," Harold replied with surprising cheer. "But I'll tell you something. I've spent my life watching people chase complexity when simplicity was the answer all along." The best investments aren't exotic. They're right under your nose, doing something essential so reliably nobody notices them. For the next 2 hours, Warren and Harold talked investments, business principles, and life philosophy. Harold shared stories of businesses he'd seen succeed and fail, articulating patterns that Warren had been observing but hadn't fully formed into principles. When the mechanic called to say the car was ready, Warren was almost disappointed. He offered to pay for Harold's lunch, but the old man refused. "Just take that receipt," Harold insisted. "Do your research on them. Might be nothing, might be something. Either way, it's my last contribution to the world of commerce." They parted ways, and Warren tucked the receipt into his jacket pocket, initially intending to look into it, but soon forgetting as he rushed to his rescheduled meeting. 3 weeks later, while having his suit dry cleaned, Warren rediscovered the crumpled receipt. He remembered Harold's words and decided to follow through on his promise to research the company. What he discovered amazed him. Consumer Standard Products had indeed been operating quietly but profitably for decades, manufacturing essential household items with remarkably stable earnings. Their financial statements showed consistently increasing dividends and virtually no debt. Yet their stock price didn't reflect this stability. They were practically invisible to Wall Street. Warren began purchasing shares gradually, careful not to drive up the price. By 1965, he had acquired a significant position at bargain prices. When Berkshire Hathaway became his investment vehicle, this unassuming company became one of its early core holdings. Over the next decade, Consumer Standard Products continued its steady growth, expanding product lines and distribution while maintaining their exceptional margins. In 1977, when a larger corporation finally noticed its value and offered to acquire it at a substantial premium, Warren's initial investment had multiplied nearly 30 times. But the true value wasn't just in that single investment. The principles Harold had articulated that day, seeking businesses with invisible competitive advantages, companies that created essential products with high margins, enterprises so fundamental to daily life that they were overlooked, became cornerstone concepts in Warren's investment philosophy. In his later years, when asked about his incredible success, Warren would occasionally mention a chance meeting with an elderly accountant in a Chicago diner, though he kept the details private. "Sometimes the most valuable insights come from unexpected sources," he would say. "And sometimes a forgotten receipt can change your life." What Warren never shared publicly was that he had tried to find Harold again, to thank him and perhaps offer him financial support during his final months. But the address Harold had provided led to a vacant lot, and no records of an accountant named Harold Winters from that era could be found in Chicago. On the 5th anniversary of their meeting, Warren received an anonymous package containing only a newspaper clipping about Consumer Standard Products' success and a handwritten note. "The best investments are the ones others don't see. Keep looking where others don't." Warren never discovered whether Harold was a guardian angel of sorts, a figment of fate, or simply an ordinary man with extraordinary insight. But he never forgot the lesson. Sometimes fortune arrives in the most unexpected ways. Through a broken-down car, a crowded diner, and a forgotten receipt that revealed not just a single investment opportunity, but a philosophy that would help build one of history's greatest fortunes. Years later, when dispensing wisdom to young investors, Warren often paraphrased Harold. "Look for the businesses that everyone needs but nobody notices. Find the companies that sell the invisible necessities of everyday life. That's where the true fortunes are hidden." And whenever Warren Buffett passed a small diner during his travels, he would sometimes stop in, order a cherry Coke, and take a moment to remember the stranger who had helped shape his thinking on that fateful autumn day in 1962, a day when a delayed journey led to the discovery of a lifetime. The story of Harold Winters and the forgotten receipt never appeared in any official biography of Warren Buffett. It remained his private reminder that sometimes the most valuable investment insights come not from financial statements or market analyses, but from listening to the accumulated wisdom of those who have observed the cycles of business with patient, attentive eyes. As Berkshire Hathaway grew into one of the world's most successful investment companies, Warren kept the faded receipt framed on his office wall. Not as a trophy of financial success, but as a reminder that fortune often hides in plain sight, waiting for someone patient enough to notice what everyone else has overlooked. And in the quiet moments when he contemplated his legacy, Warren would smile at the framed receipt and wonder if Harold had somehow known exactly who he was and what he needed to hear that day. a day when a simple delay led to a lifetime of extraordinary success.